Dear travelers, please take your seat. Is the screen light? Okay. It's been a few years since that I've been this nervous, so thank you very much. We have just 663 days to go for the next Dutch hackercamp, so please everybody panic. I don't hear enough panic, more panic please. Alright, everybody please hear it on the screen too, I hope. So thank you for your panic. First, short thanks for Hack42 to let us use this chapel again. And here. And this time it is warm, actually, so we're upgrades. There is a bar in the back. The laptop on the bar does not have a touch screen. Everybody has tried it, but it does not have a touch screen. Please don't use it as a touch screen. You can just get drinks as much as you want. There will be a barbecue around 6-ish. All the stuff is in the back already, so if you want raw meat right now, good luck. Furthermore, thanks everybody for creating this ad hoc setup. People over there in the first row, you know who we are. Thank you very much. So we're streaming and we have audio and there's a warm chapel, so thank you. Well then, we have an agenda. The agenda is like, am I forgetting something? No, okay. We have an agenda which is the timeline. There's an overall timeline to go to the next event and until the actual cleanup and that nothing has happened and we can ignore. What's the word? Plausible deniability. So from here to plausible deniability we have a timeline. There will be an announcement about orga.news. There will be a name proposal for the next 2021 event, which we always have. The financial status will be discussed via Tela. If we have time for it, we have a short break of about 15 minutes. Then sponsoring policy will be discussed for 15 minutes. Then there's a subject about roles and orgas and team and choose your team. And the number of vacancies that are left for the things that we don't have people for yet. Today there's a lot of people. We're with 84 now, I guess. Yeah, so let's just start and see what we end up with. So there is a timeline, and we're somewhere here. It's the 1st of October. It is. It says on the wiki, so it's true. And there's a lot of stuff to do, but the overarching timeline is on the wiki, and you can, for your teams and the things you have to do, you can sort of align that, add your things that you want to do, major deliverables and such. So it is, yeah, so everybody knows a little bit what is coming and what will be happening in the next few years. This includes like the launch of a website, and that we have a permit that we have to announce and to create, and a lot of infrastructure stuff will be ordered. There will be a few order meetings over the next years. There will be one every 3 months. 2 months was a bit too dense, was the feedback last time, so there will be one every 3 months. And it will be a little bit more nearing the event. This time we want to have earlier agreements on the food court, A design will be needed at somewhere mid 2020. A terrain has to be designed. Catalyst already brought some very, very nice, huge maps. Some of them are laying over there. So if you want to brainstorm and think of what you can do and how you want to do it, there's a nice visualization over there. There will be a go, no-go moment. I hope, given the number of people and all the permit stuff that's going really well, that it looks like it will be a go, but we'll know for sure next year. There will be a point where everybody needs to know how much money they will spend or can spend. Attila will dive into that. And of course, permit requests, more orga meetings. You see that more stuff is happening here. So it's all in Dutch, by the way. Sorry for that. It will be translated to English soon. The end. Health checks of teams. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. Another field day in 2021, of course. There will be 2 field days, as we think of now, one next year with the go, no-go moment, so we will get on the field again, so that's really nice. And one in 2021. The idea is that we will use the same terrain as we had last time. Scouting says yes, we already had the contract ready at the after party, so that's nice. So yeah, it was an intent. We have a sort of intention agreement or something like that that's being officialized right now. And the 6th of August 2021, there will be a new hacker event. Hooray! It's called such Chat 2021, but we can forget that name for now, or maybe not. That will be a next subject. And the 11th of August, the teardown happens, and in the 1 October, somewhere in October 2021, there will be an after party. And there should be a plausible deniability section here, but we missed that, I think. But that's basically, for the next 2 years, 2.5 years, the plan of what we will do in the most high abstract way. So if you have things to add to that from your team, from your perspective, please do so. And that's basically the timeline. We have a nice visualization. This works pretty well if there are actual dates. Sorry? Yeah, it's beautiful. Look. And a lot of stuff is set on a specific date because, we don't know what date in advance we will do. And here's somewhere, we expect a lot of more blobs coming out with more actions. But yeah, that's basically it. Are there any questions regarding this timeline? Great. Well, then it's settled, then it's easy. So yeah, that's basically the timeline. It's very, very straightforward. There's also, I missed that maybe, there's some pictures here with the original sources if you'd like to spend an afternoon validating what's on the timeline. Good fun. I think we can go to the next thing. Oh, there are questions. Question, please.
Despite the overview, a quick summary of what has happened so far, because I think that the quite long planning why there's some things on the timeline that are now in the past that have happened. Summarize that?
If I understand it correctly, what has happened until now?
Yes.
It should be an orga.news.
Oh, there's a website for that. I have somebody telling me that I have to type something in.
It's probably not.
Orga.news, right? Well, you take it away.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Knoy. I'm going to tell you something about a new concept that we didn't have at earlier events, which is called Orga.news, because the name was free. So when organizing an event like this, you already see that one of the main communication channels is a mailing list. And currently, for example, the announcement of this meeting was on the main organization mailing list. And if you keep following that mailing list, you will hear more things in the future. But an interesting thing is that the nearer you get to an event, and the more the organization ramps up, the more things happen, that main organization mailing list gets quieter and quieter. Because everybody starts working in his own team, with his own mailing list, his own IRC channel, etc., etc. And sometimes, like half a year before the event, then it's a bit difficult if you're not subscribed to all the mailing lists and reading all those discussions, which I think you should not do. Then you might think, yeah, what's everyone doing? Like, are they working super hard? And that, or is everyone waiting before it's 5 minutes before 12? So we're going to help you a bit with that. And teams can, of course, write a report about their team or what everything they did to the main mailing list, or they can write a blog post with a photo like, oh, we designed these lights and they work, and see how we build it. But reality proves that a lot of people in teams, they don't really want that, or they don't know how, or they don't like writing a lot of text, and it takes time, and it's funnier to keep building stuff. So this news will be a collection of things that happened all the time. Currently it's monthly, we'll change to weekly, and if needed, maybe even more often. And if you think, oh, I want to share something with the world that happened, then you don't have to write a super big blog post or whatever. You can. So on here will be information about how to submit things, or I don't even know myself how to work it. But you can just like change or share a line or two, like what you did or what you accomplished. Beside that, the main.
Can you show?
Show what?
Show what is content.
Oh yeah, so it starts at April 2019. This will be like a newsletter with small things that, oh, there was a meeting, someone was decided, or someone was made about, something was made about the organization, and well, some other news. There's one rule here. There will be only things on the website that actually happened. So there will be no messages like, oh, we had a team discussion and we're going to build this huge thing and we'll be huge and good and resign. It's not going to actually happen. It won't be on here. So you will only read stuff like, oh, the municipality agreed with our documents or whatever, or something was finished. So don't send big IDs that will not happen, but send everything that just happened, and then it will be on here. And so everyone has a weekly overview of all the stuff that's happening, and we can see how busy everyone is. Do you like it? Yay! Okay. And of course, if there are people who like to subscribe to all mailing lists, who are at all the Hackspace, all the evenings of every week, and who gather lots of these information fragments, please come out and help providing them, because I'm not going to be able to read it all and visit every team what I do myself. So please help. There's a question.
Is it like an announcement from mailing list?
I have no idea. Is it should be mentioned here that the list? No, there's no. It will be in the October section that it was announced in the mailing list. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's basically a sort of commit log, right? Everything that's happened, just send a line to the organization and it will be posted on here. So hooray. Next up, delicious subject, which is the name proposal. And I actually prepared some slides for this. So this is the 9th event that we're doing in this series. And this is the 9th time that we will have this identity crisis. So identity crisis version 9. Every time it has been terrible, sometimes more terrible than other times. It has been terrible. Nobody agreed with anything, and suddenly there was a name. So last time we took about 1.5 years or something to come up with a name. We already had an acronym, but somebody had to brute force a correct meaning of it. That's maybe not the way that's most efficient. So to guide that a little bit, there's a proposal on how to create something great. And actually, there are two things, two different views on what we should do in the next event. And that's something that we're going to put to a vote today. There's one side that says we should keep SHA still hanging anywhere, and we should add a tagline to it. The other side says we need a new acronym and we need a new name. Okay, those two views exist. That's something that we're going to debate on, but most importantly is whatever happens from the choice, something has to be made that is actually really good. So I searched like how can you make something really good, and there are some people that have thought about that, and I wanted to share that. First of the process of the whole thing. Today I'll describe the expected outputs and success criteria. There will be a vote on what will be created. What will be voted on will become largely the identity of the next event. And the 15th or 16th of November, we have undemocratically reviews all the entries and we decide what it will be. It's tradition, and we keep that tradition too, right? So, but there is a lot of flexibility, and there's also a lot of tricks that you can use to send in something great that cannot be denied. So, at the beginning of December, we will get the first batch of promo stuff and spread it around the world and hackerspaces and Congress, etc. And if everything fails and everything burns to the ground, then we will have SHA 2021 copy, paste, improve. And I hope we do not get to that stage. So, how to come to an identity that's actually great, actually meaningful? Well, that's hard. Because an identity is more than just a few words. The still hacking anyway thing cost a lot of time to come up with, and that it actually had some meaning and that it meant something for everybody. And the reason is because that name contains a bit of the why. And the why is, why are we doing this event? Why are we here in this slightly warm chapel? Why are you here? Well, still hacking anyway was part of that identity. So if you want to create something really nice, you have to create something that connects to the identity of this event and of you and of everybody in this room. And to explain that a bit further, I have found a very terrible video on YouTube with horrible quality, but the context is actually really amazing. So I want to ask my friend Simon to take it away. I hope it works. No? Try again. No? Yes? It's very interesting. I've been playing music for 2 hours now, and now that I need music, there's nothing. Anything? Hello?
Let's switch on the captions.
I cannot go louder. Oh. Okay. Fucking hell. It will work at a certain point, right? Certain point. 10 minutes, right? Alright. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations, some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. They need to find the term really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, what we call the deliberation value proposition, or the proprietary process, or USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do it. And by why it means they profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why it means a purpose, what you call it, it's your belief. Why does your organization exist? Why do you have a different and why should anyone share? Well, as a result, when you think, when you act, when you communicate, it's going to be outside and it's obvious. It's clear and it's but you inspire leaders, inspire organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all things have to do from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple to understand and answer. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're newly designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. One by one. Yeah. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate personally. We say what we do, we say how we think about it, and we set some sort of behavior or purpose or something like that. Here's our new law firm. That's one of the biggest clients in the way we perform for our clients. Here's our new car. The gas mileage has leather seats by our car. But it doesn't inspire. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make those computers. One by one. So really by computer. All I do is reverse the order of information. What it proves to us is that people don't by what you do, people by why you do it. People don't by what you do and by why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room or a film panel, or a DVR panel, or as I said before, which is a computer company, is nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any other competitors. The competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried a few years ago, Gateway to now classroom TVs. They're evidently qualified to make classroom TVs. They can use some classroom models for years. But we go on. That came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make good quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products. And there'll be more. In fact, talking about Aaron, I can imagine buying an MP3 player for Dell. I buy an MP3 player from a computer company. But we did it again. People don't buy what we do, they buy why you do it. When we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information, features, and benefits.
rationalize it by the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why do we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart, you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, there's no other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here, you're in the brain. The part of the brain that controls decision making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for your advice or more importantly, be loyal?
So, that's a basic explanation on why the why is important to create something nice. So if you want to create a new slogan, a new tagline, a new brand name or whatever, and you don't have to find why you're doing it, why you are here in this chapel right now, then it's really hard to create something convincing to convince others. So we have defined a few success criteria. So if you're going to send something in and you have a great idea, then the first thing that the way that I will look at is like, does it contain a why? Does it contain a deeper motivation? Does it contain something that connects to all of us? The second one is, oh, that's the same. Well done. The third one, please also add a list of related keywords and tags and meaning to it. Create context around what you're trying to say, because that makes it easier when you decide what is a good name, that it actually is a good name. Try to add a mood board with references to create a better understanding, and have an overarching explanation. If you have like an acronym and a name and a tagline, all of those things, how they connect together and why. So, and there are some secondary criteria like try to include references to hacker, computer culture, try to make it uplifting, like MEH. And try to make it designable, but that automatically happens if you have a mood board, which is nice. Try to conjure up something that makes you want to hack, makes you want to break in things. And when relevant, use the proper punctuation and styling and say how that works. So I've made 2 examples of this, what we expect. So that's a lot of text, I'm sorry for this, but this contains everything for the name and acronym example, and I have the same thing for the tagline example. So we have I've created some name like hacking example acronyms. What's the deeper meaning? Well, in this case, that hackers sometimes can be open to guidance, and this template can help creating great names with deeper meaning. The related keywords are Lord Ibsen, sample text, empty, blank canvas, clean slate, grammar possibilities, etc., etc. So there's a lot of stuff right there already. And you can go a lot of ways with this example already. We can even have an example-themed hacker event now. I don't know if we want that, but we can. And based on these keywords, I started juggling a bit and came to the acronym HEXA, which is, of course, if you have a lot of context around your name and around your idea, you can juggle a bit and you can come up with something nice, like an acronym that actually means something in our culture. I also created a mood board with all kinds of examples, Hello World, and Lord Ibsen, and test images that are being used, so you already have a sort of visualization of an example theme. If you want to have the tagline, but still hacking anyway, and add a tagline to it, the same goes. So the name is defined, still hacking anyway. What's the deeper meaning? That whatever happens, hacking is at the core of what we do. It's in our blood, we're born with it, and it will never be stopped. So the keywords are perseverance, resistance, consistency, focused, inspired, etc. So if you want to have a tagline with that, for example, setting examples, I don't know if that's a good diagram, I don't think so. You can also have a deeper meaning. Why is this tagline relevant to us? Also have keywords, also have an overarching storyline, why this is a good tagline, and of course a mood board. I fleshed out the mood board a little bit because I liked it. The funny thing is, if I would send this presentation to you as is, it will be seen as spam, because it's a sentence at the bottom, and it will be seen as a virus by the virus scanner, because of the other sentence. Those are also sample texts, which are actually very nice to use. And all kind of, most of the stuff is very interesting to read up if you look on Wikipedia about the pages about examples and demo files, etc. You will get this stuff, and it's massively interesting why these files have been chosen. So that's a fleshed out concept. If you would send in something like this, like great test for others, the acronym would be GTFO. Well, this is what will happen. It will just be tossed out and no consideration. So you have to work on something that's really nice, has a deeper meaning, and have to explain why that is relevant to us. And I expect, using this format, like there will be a dozen entries that are actually really good. And in the best case scenarios, we will have acronyms or slogans for the years to come. So we would have lesser identity crisis next time. Some pro tips. Yes, you can use AI constraint solvers and algorithms to conjure up something. Please do. It's funny. Take your time. It's really hard to convey in words what the deeper meaning is. So the why. It took me a few days to make sense of it all, and like, why am I here? What am I doing here? Okay, I know I'm talking here, but why am I here? Well, there are reasons for that, and I'm so nervous right now that I cannot verbalize them, so I'm sorry. And yes, you can send in multiple suggestions, so if you have 10 ideas, just send them in a folder. The format is not really important, so you can send in a PowerPoint or a postcard or a JPEG or whatever, as long as we can sort of quickly open it. So if you're going to send in some weird compression format and have a Commodore 64 image in that we need to decrypt with some ransomware key, no, that's probably not going to work. Yes, there is flexibility, and perhaps you can find a way to bend the rules a little bit, aka hacking, or make something so good that doesn't commit or subscribe to this at all, and that's even better. Can happen. I'm not an all-knowing being, of course, in terms of branding, etc. No, bragging about your suggestion doesn't make it better. Ordering 50,000 stickers with it does also not make it better. Sorry, how many did you order? Oh, there are just 7,000. It's rookie numbers. And yes, please be excellent to each other. There will be a lot of submissions, a lot of things being sent in different ideas, different qualities perhaps. Try to find the good things in them. Because maybe it takes some time to understand why this is a good idea. So that's basically a bit of the guidelines on how to come up with something nice. How to join. There's two ways basically. You can send it in to identitycrisis@ifgot.org. That's a mailbox that will be opened on the day that we will look at it. So we have no idea that we will check that the mail actually arrives, but we will not look at the content. So that's the surprise box, but you can also publicize it on the wiki. That's up to you. And claim Twitter feeds and whatever, that's up to you. And that's a wiki.ifgot.org/identity crisis. Deadline is the 14th of November, 23:59 CET. And the presentation with all the slides and stuff will also be at the same wiki page. So, now the voting part. As I said before, there are basically two groups that have an idea of what should happen. Group I actually defined 3 of them. Those are equally important. Group A, Group 0, and Group 1. Group A wants a new name and an acronym. Group 1 wants the same name and acronym, but add a tagline or slogan. And Group 0 doesn't give a fuck and just wants to get on with it. So for those things we can vote, and there are some arguments, and I would like to ask Jurt to come up and we present both the plus sides of all stories.
All stories. All you all stories.
All.
That's fine. So, should I pick for that? I don't know. I can try.
This will work instantly.
It's not an apple, so it might just work. Mirror. Does that work? Oké, cool.
Dit is de kruis, als je daar staat word je goed opgenomen. Oh, dat wil ik juist niet.
What? Nice. So I kind of only prepared one because I wasn't told I had to do both. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm in Group A, so everything here will be geared towards that decision because that is my strong preference. Names are identities, or at least part of your identity, and well, we've been changing the name all the time, and that has become our identity or part of it. We've had a lot of names. So it began with something that wasn't completely a camp like we have now, and it was the Galactic Hacker Party. Then it started becoming camps, and there's been a different name every time. The pattern here is it is 3 letters, usually also 3 words, but as you can see, hacking at the end of the universe, HEU, cheated a bit, which is fine apparently. So yeah, is this still on screen? Yeah, okay. So if you subtract these years, then you see that it is a 28-year tradition. And I really like the tradition. None of these actually had a mood board. Some names were terrible, but the events were great. So I personally don't think the name has to be great, it just has to be different from the previous one. And many of us refer to the events by the name, because the name has been unique thus far. So some people actually say the 2013 event, but most people will say OHM or O. And a lot of people say, well, people can't find the event because it changes the name all the time. And I disagree, it is just not true, because there's a browser here, and so this is home2013.org. For whatever reason, the What the Heck website worked yesterday, but who of you broke it? Does it work now? Can I refresh? No. Okay. Sorry? Okay, so this one worked yesterday or the day before, but as you can see, even 2001 website, Hackers at Large, still has a reference to SHA, so anyone who bothered to actually look for it did find the next event. And people who didn't find it, they haven't bothered to actually Google for it, or use DuckDuckGo or any other search engine, of course. Also, note that most suppliers, they only care about the actual company they're dealing with, which is a foundation in our case. And even that has changed a few times. So from Stichting HAL 2001, we're now at Stichting IFCAT Foundation, and in between we had Stichting HXX, and most suppliers didn't really care as long as they get paid. Also, sponsors, not really completely clear on the subject, so there's a huge disclaimer that if I understand correctly, which I might not, the problem has not been to reach sponsors or to convince them that we exist and that it is a new event in the same series, but mostly that we ourselves are kind of picky about which sponsors we like, because we want to avoid some controversies. So yeah, I really love the tradition of changing the name. It makes me feel like there's room for new ideas, new crew, new visitors, new everything. There's room for experimentation, and
it is clear that we always want something in the spirit of the previous events. And keeping the name SHA, it's nice by itself, and there is something to be said for it. I'm not completely against the idea, but it's all in the, we want to keep things the same, and let's not take the risk of doing something wrong, because any change could have a negative impact. Well, it could also be positive, I think. And the rest is not completely on the screen, so I'll add some more new lines here. So yeah, to summarize, I really love the name Still Hacking Anyway, and SHA was a great event, but our early events were great too. And I think we should honor them by just keeping the tradition, change the name again. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a good name, just has to be different. And this would also mean that we would extend the tradition from 28 to 32 years, which is a nice round number. But let's not stop after that. Let's go on for 36, etc. So that's kind of my point, and maybe Stitch wants to say why it is a good idea to actually keep the name SHA 2001.
So there are arguments for both Group A and Group 1. I think I've also summarized most of the point you gave for Group A. Tradition, new identity, etc. There's also various reasons why keeping SHA Still Hacking Anyway with that identity for the next event, and I've summarized them here. Basically, the Still Hacking Anyway at SHA was a very good event. And built upon that, we have built a very good reputation. Everybody's happy. If you mention SHA, everybody has good stories about it, so hooray. And to make sure that everybody understands that, also the people a little bit outside of our community, keeping the name would make it easier to understand and easier to find us as an event. At the same time, the tagline has a lot more freedom to it. So if you have to have an acronym of 3 letters and a matching name, it's a very difficult puzzle to solve. But if you have a tagline, there's much more freedom to come up with something that actually holds the identity that we want to convey. There's also some very simple arguments, like it's the same location, which never happened before. It's the same crew. Well, some of the people are here from 2001, 1997. Who has been at the first one? Nobody? Yeah? All right, one person's. And so it's the same location, same crew, so why not the same name? And of course there are 3 versions of SHA. There's the SHA-1, what's the previous one? Next one will be, of course, SHA-2. And there will be SHA-3, and maybe if we're in luck there will be a SHA-4. But if I looked at the timelines, and that might not happen, so I don't know. And that's basically the arguments to go for a tagline. So, are there any things that you heard or I missed in argumentation? Then I would like to ask a few people to give some more argumentation either side. Please say what your group is, A or 1.
Yes, I am in favor of changing the name because I think this is what is expected from the people that will be visiting this event. A pivotal moment for me to decide on this was when we were distributing SHA 2021 stickers at the CDC event. People were surprised by the name. They were surprised that, what, are you sticking with the same name? So, yeah, I think this is also something that our audience expects from us. They want us to stick with this event, and by sticking with this event, we should change the name, keep changing.
Are there anyone else to add something to this? Are there other arguments? If not, then we will go to a vote. There's an argument, somebody over there. Hello? There will be a microphone here. You can shout it.
Traditions are student fraternities, our tradition.
Thank you. Okay, then this will be then the deciding moment. There will be 3 groups, and I'm asking you to vote with your feet so we can actually see that something is happening here. Like this, the group A, if you are for group A, which is a new name and acronym, please gather over there so we can count how many people there are. If you are with group 0 and you just want to get over this, please stay seated. And group 1, if you want to say the name of the acronym, please go over that side. I think we have one. Okay, so we can. So shall we make it official and actually count people? So that's very interesting. I see about 50, 40 people over there. I see about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people over there. So I think the decision has been made, and we will go for a new name and acronym. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much for your decision. It's been most enlightening. I didn't know voting with your feet was so much roughness.
Can you stay out loud?
Yeah, that's happening. All right, so thank you very much for voting. It was very clear. Still the things that have been discussed before, like try to get a deeper meaning, try to get a deeper, more meaningful name and acronym, and try to see how this conveys into one bigger identity. It is possible. In the past few months, based on these guidelines, I made a few of them. So it's easy, pretty easy. Send in your suggestions to identity cohort. That mailbox will be opened on the 15th or 16th of November. So we have no clue what you will send in. We'll just check if the mail arrives and that's it. If you want to do it publicly, send it into the wiki, wiki.kickoff.org/identity crisis. The content of the page is now basically empty, but this presentation will be added, and of course some template to help you fleshing it out. The deadline is 14th of November, 23:59 CET, and the presentation will also be at the Identity Crisis page. Are there any questions? One question over there.
Does the email address identity crisis already exist, or will it be created shortly?
I asked Pile that it exists. Pile? Has been fixed. Thank you, Sisterman. Thank you, Pile. Any more questions?
Other questions?
All right, then that part of the naming crisis has been fixed, and we can move on to the next subject. Hooray! Alrighty, then I'll ask Attila to tell how much money we still have left and what we're going to do with it. De thuis is waar je goed hebt genomen. Oh, oké. En staan even mijn laptop aan het uitschrijven. Als je de microfoon wil neerleggen, moet je hem even in het bakje neerleggen. Is goed.
Kan ik HDMI aansluiten?
Nee.
Nee?
Oh ja, wel.
Ja?
Ja, kan wel.
Wacht.
Gewoon trekken. It's also a short institute.
Of course. What? So finances, always a very nice topic, right? So last time I was called Grumpy Cat because I said no to everything with regard to finances. So we're currently working on a preliminary budget. Basically what we did is we put all the expenses of last time, we added 10%, but we're right now working on getting the actual cost. So we're negotiating with the scouting for the terrain, we're contacting the tents, etc., to get the exact cost. But roughly, and there's a part red, with these costs we need about 300K. So if someone wants our bank account number, you can get it on your way out. But that's the general idea. So in the end, we need to get a complete cost overview to determine what we all have to pay for our tickets. And that's better than the last time because basically we determined the ticket price afterwards. So that's not a good thing. Luckily, last time we came out positive. We have about 42,000 euros left. We made, so that's not specifically for this today, but we made some expenses over the last 2 years and we rounded up at 45. So yeah, we do need some more money and we're looking into what the costs are all going to be, etc. Are there any questions about finances? No? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I see that the next thing is also on me, so that's on sponsoring. So how about we do the break and then we go to the... Yeah? Because we've been at it for a bit.
That's good.
Okay, so let's have a short break and then we go to the next topic.
Please be back at the MEH. Please be back at around 15:15. So a 15 minutes break, something like that. Dear travelers, please take your seat. The airplane is about to
Moet ik dan even
The safety instructions will follow. In event of an emergency, you will see the lights at the footpath and at the side of the airplane. It will blink towards the direction of the emergency exit. All right, are we ready for the closing of the last part of this thing before we go to barbecue? Well, again, Attila, here you go.
Okay, sponsoring. A controversial topic for our events, right? So let me first explain how that went down last time. I pretty much joined in December 2016. And then we started to do the basics, open the ticket shop and start to organize that. And at some point we said, okay, let's get some sponsors. In the end, we managed to get some. And that were basically some companies who liked our organization. A few companies that we know. Internet for All, they donated 37,500 euros. Access for All sponsored a bit. And in the end, that plus a few small sponsors got us to about 80K of sponsoring and donations. Now, we want to do it better this time. So currently what we're working on is creating a sponsor document that we can send to companies that hopefully want to sponsor us. And it's always, okay, what are we giving them back? Because we have certain principles that are controversial, what we don't want to, people to sponsor. So we're definitely not going to have paid speaker slots. We're not going to place names on every tent. Well, unless they maybe sponsor the entire event. But let's discuss that when we get to it. So we have our principles, and on the other hand, we still have a lot of companies that like us and probably want to sponsor again. But just liking us won't get us bigger sponsors. So we have to find in the gray area where we can find sponsors that are willing to sponsor us more, but don't give in our principles. So we have to define that. We're working on the document. What are we putting in there? Are we defining sponsor levels? How are we going to communicate that? What are we giving back, etc. I hope to have that done before today, but I've been mostly not in the country for the past 2 months or so. And we had some internal discussions like what are we going to put in there. We're going to make a nice design around it so that if some CEO looks at it and like, hey, this looks nice, I want to give money to them just because it looks nice. So we're working on that, and well, we definitely need to have it done roughly close to the end of the year, because there are already companies who put in budgets for the next year or sometimes 2 years in ahead. So we want to start early with that, have a more structured process. We need to have contracts for sponsors to make sure that they do everything that they need to do, and we do the same. And if something goes wrong, that we also can say goodbye if something goes wrong. So Yeah, so right now I have a few people that I'm working with to do that. In the end, I hope to have a bigger team. If you're interested in sponsoring, helping out with that, let me know, and yeah, we can take it from there. Any questions?
How about sponsoring not with money but with goods or services?
Okay, yeah, so there we have a ton of sponsoring who give us goods. The network team, the video team, several teams who get sponsoring in kind, and we always have them. But we do need some cash because some things just cost money.
Could you provide us a clear protocol of kind of companies you would allow and the kind of companies you wouldn't allow? It would be kind of sad if I organize a company who says, well, I would like to sponsor SHA, and somebody says, I believe they're a little bit too much cyber, we don't want them.
It's hard to predefine. I think there are some usual suspects who we definitely don't want us to sponsor. Everyone else we should talk to, and if we decide then not to take their sponsorship, that is a valid conclusion as well.
So you look at it on a case-by-case basis?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be a good idea to have an outline sponsor policy, let's say 3 months time or less before the end of the year?
Yeah, definitely. You're on my list to contact.
Okay, I will follow up.
Any others?
No? Okay, perfect.
Well, thank you. If you have any questions regarding sponsoring in the coming years, you know who to talk to. Now I'm going to plug in my laptop again, and that's always worked flawlessly. So the next subject on the agenda is roles in the orga and what the orga looks like. In the past event we had the definition of teams and some rules with them, like please do not be in more than one team to protect yourself from burning out and doing too much. But in the end we found that... Oh, sorry, I messed up. I'm really good at giving presentations. So we had a number of teams, and what we found out is that in the end we missed a few things. Everybody was so busy doing things, and we missed a few things that luckily were picked up by some heroes that really made SHA working really well. For example, the parking in the end, it was terrible. There were terrible shifts, and some people did it. So we should be really thankful for that, for them to filling that gap. But preferably, we don't want to have that situation again. So we looked at how can we improve the orga a little bit, or how can we make it a little bit better. We looked around, like what are good organization models, and we found them at the 35C3, that's one on the right. There you can see all kinds of teams and how you can reach them. It's a clear picture, right? This is the most, we thought this would be the way to go for our event. So if you're happy with this, nobody? Then I have an alternative. I'm going to show you alternative in a moment. And it will be a diagram containing a number of circles and team and role names. Well, to be very clear, I've got some instructions on how this works. It does not contain teams specifically, but it contains a number of roles that somehow should be meshed to a team. In the end, maybe. And we have clusters of these roles. And if you look at what these roles do, you will get a nice picture of what the orga actually looks like and who should talk to who, and who is like you can reasonably expect to talk to who. The diagram is of course incomplete. It's changing, depends on what this event will look like in the end. So if you are missing roles or missing a certain specific thing, please say so. And I'm now going, it's also not to scale. I'm now going to show the graph for this. Right, here we are. So this is maybe a bit, a lot of information. But what you see here are the clusters and roles. So, and very nice things emerge from this if you look at it. The diagram has been made by Jurt. He's the maintainer of this diagram. So if you're missing a certain role or missing a certain dependency, you know who to talk to. And here you see, for example, that the conference role has really, like, the conference cluster contains a speaker desk role, a herald role, and a content role. And what you see is that it's, well, a lot of stuff does not have any interaction with the content team, which is what we have seen at the previous events, which is very nice. So they can operate pretty much independently of whatever we are going to do. And that's a good thing. You can also see that, for example, the conference cluster has to talk to production house. They have a match them. They, of course, if you have a conference, you need to record it, you need to stream it, etc. You need microphones and such. So there's a direct link there. There's a direct overlap there. You see that there's a lot of these roles on this picture. You also see that some of the roles have arrows, which makes this even more interesting. And some of the roles are in italics. I hope you can see it from this distance. Well, the picture's on the wiki, so you can zoom in as much as you want. And the italics means that this role talks to basically all other teams, that it needs to inquire information from all the other teams. So if you have a knock, you will basically ask, like, do you need network, etc. What we have found here is some missing things in the previous event, like in advance have a luggage shuttle, do more with parking, and have something called arrival and departure, which we missed last time, and that caused a lot of problems. And to solve them, we have now made it more explicit that this cluster needs to exist to prevent a lot of well, pain on site and inconvenience on site. Well, let me see if I've covered all the ground there's to cover. A lot of teams will probably correspond to one role, and that's what we've seen in the past, like Team Daco has the role Daco. Some may be merged, and that's the part of the organization that we don't really know yet. We know that there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of stuff that you know, but I don't. The thing that we would like to do is to know what roles have been taken, or what roles would you like to do, and then come to a conclusion on who are we missing, for what things are we missing people to actually have a great event. And Melinda will take that up after me. Well, that's basically. Are there any questions regarding this scheme, this diagram? I know it's very complex. The arrows mean that you talk directly to the other team. So, for example, with the Horeca cluster, which has, of course, bottles. It produces bottles, empty bottles everywhere, and it needs to go to waste, so the logistics cluster. And you have to talk, of course, to the waste team, like how can I get rid of all these bottles? Are there any other questions?
So, there's two things I'd like to explain further. One of them is that you have these arrows and they indicate inter-cluster communication between the roles, inter-cluster, but there's sort of implicit arrows in between all of the roles within a single cluster. So, for example, if you look on top, there's logistics, waste, on-site, and warehouse. They all communicate a lot with each other. And that's always within the cluster, there's implicit errors. I had to leave them out, because otherwise it would be too noisy. The other thing is that I have to leave out, you already mentioned italics, there's also goal. There are two goal roles, there are info and project planning, and that basically means that they have to be aware of basically everything that's happening. Info in terms of everything that's happening that is relevant for business, and project planning needs to know everything that is relevant for the organization. So that too would become too really noisy if there were all kinds of arrows pointing to those things. So that is a cheat applied.
All right, thanks. For these clusters, we had this project planning meeting a while back. We thought that maybe let's try to have per cluster somebody from the project lighting to help and guide a little bit. I don't have the list with me. Not all the names are confirmed yet too, so that will happen soon, and will be like, last time I did something with Deco and something with Production House, and this time I'll be going to the infra side, so power, etc. And that way everybody from the project lighting has their own thing that where they try to help you get in touch with the right people if you need any assistance, like or complaints and grievances and whatever, you can talk to them. So that's basically what we're trying to do now. It is not finished. I don't know if it ever will be finished, but we hope that this at least solves the biggest problems that we had last time, that we just missed some things that are vitally important for the event to be successful. Any other questions? Then we'd like to know what roles everybody would want. And we've got a number of lists here. It's a big stack. There's a lot of roles. And I would like to ask to please put your nickname on one of these that you like and your email address. The email address, there's some GDPR rules now, that's new. We'll try to give it only to the people that need it within your cluster. It's on the list, and if you're evil, you can also make pictures of it. Please don't be too evil. So GDPR is actually a thing that might not be here, but we actually need that too. That's another subject. So I would like to ask everybody to come forward. We have a bunch of markers, and to just pick a role that you would like to be interested in. A lot of people already know what they will want to do, but maybe somebody wants to switch and etc., and it makes it more clear what we are going to do. So does that work for everybody? No? Oh, that's great. Let's do it. So just come forward. We have a lot of these role names, a lot of markers, and just write me. Note that there's a camera here. So while we're doing this, the good news is that is actually the last bit of the content that we would like to discuss today. So this is the last part of the content that we want to discuss today. You have a lot of time to sign up. We don't have any things on the program except two things. Can I have your attention for a little bit, please? So due to convenience, this was also the last bit of the program of today. So hooray, you can take your time the whole afternoon to decide what you want to do, and maybe the rest of the years if you need that. There are two things that I want to mention, and maybe a third thing, but that depends on if I'm actually able and allowed to do that. But the first thing that there will be a barbecue. Please help out to make sure that the barbecue will be there and everybody can get food. There is a certified. There is a CEH, HTC, NCSC certification. If you want to become certified CEH, NCSC, THTC hacker, you can. This is a side event at the Hack42 Hackerspace. You will get a nice reward, a nice diploma that you can show off in the office, like how important you are. Next, there's Shoot All the Hackers. Dave van Zuilenkom wants to make nice pictures of hackers. If you want your portrait taken, please contact Dave van Zuilenkom. Please raise your hand. Contact Dave van Zuilenkom if you want your nice portrait taken. This is your chance. And the last part is secret. Sync you. Are you here? Okay, I cannot reveal that. I'm sorry.
Ja, daar sta ik op.
Alright, well, thank you very much. This was the kickoff.
Offsite. Even het diagram op het scherm zetten.
Kunnen we nog een nieuwe maken? Of niet?
What are you finding?
Chaos dit.